Start by introducing ourselves. My name is Amy Jansen, and I am the Product Marketing Manager for Marketing Services here at Vendasta.
And my name is Kevin Tidalgo, and I am the website team lead here at Vendasta.
So thanks to everyone who's in attendance. We really appreciate this. We're going to go over a general overview of why it's important to have a website for small businesses, and then also how to make it an effective and captivating website that will drive traffic, but also keep your customers there. So why is it important for a business to have a website? Well, small businesses need a website because it's the virtual link between social pages, listing and review sites, and their physical store. Consumers are increasingly more likely to make purchases online, and consumers are less likely to make purchases from non-verified websites. So for example, if a consumer is driven to a website that hasn't been updated in a few months, a year, 10 years, they're going to click right out of there. So as much as we want to drive traffic to the website, we want to keep them there, and we want to keep them there for longer so that they can make purchases, inspect what exactly it is that we're offering, and then to visit you in person. Also, consumers expect it. 6 out of 10 consumers expect to find SMBs online. So whether they're driving to the physical storefront or simply doing some online shopping, they expect to find that specific brand or business online so that they can do a little bit of brand research and some consumer investigation before they make that final purchase. Websites are the hub of online communication. They are the site that drives social engagement to that brand presence. It's the site that updates and churns out compelling content. So whether that's frequent blog posts or it is simply just the link between social content, the website is basically the root of how your business is found online. Also, the competition is online. When people search online, they see competitors. Staying competitive in the digital age means being more visible and more virtually present than your competitors. Seems simple? It can be. Staying current in the digital age often involves updating content frequently and in a relevant fashion. Ultimately, a small business's competitors will be. Studies show that consumers go online to research a brand or item and will look into different competitors and products available. If your website isn't updated or non-visible, then you give your competitors the business advantage and you're missing out on opportunities. Now that you know why websites are important, we'll walk you through how to build an effective site. Believe us, it's not all good out there. Consumers use keywords, or without an accurate and updated website, consumers will pass it over. Some sites that are outdated, too loud, or without a refined color scheme can do more harm than good. Next, we'll walk you through the bad and the good for designing a website.
Okay, so I like to use this example to show off what a bad website would be. So this is essentially the world's worst website. So with this, just the initial thoughts, just jumping into this, it is very, very, very busy. And it's hard for your eyes to focus on certain things. You don't know what's important with this site. And I believe it's very dated. So hopefully you don't see any of these sites come up. But I can walk you through what makes a good website here. So you want to create a website that captivates an audience. So you want to think of your website as your customer service rep. So it's the digital face of your business. So I mean, if it looks good, it makes your business look good. You always want to make a really good first impression. So with web design, 94% of the website users' first impressions are design related. 38% of those people will stop engaging a website if the content or the layout is unattractive, and that goes for the content is hard to navigate around. And it only takes someone under a second to form an opinion about your site. So a good example of what a good website is essentially Apple's site. This is a really, really good example. So I'm sure everyone here knows that Apple's products, they pride themselves on being very sleek, beautiful and almost technical, and they translate that into their site there. So they almost let the products do all the talking. So I mean, if your site looks amateur and the direct competitor's site looks professional and trustworthy, just like Amy stated before, potential customers will always choose your competitor in that case. To help build a nice website, photos are pretty much one of the most important things you can have. You want high quality photos, which then will translate to making your business look a little more professional. But I mean, if you don't have professional photos available to be taken, stock images is another route to go. So before you start going into the site and building, you want to have a plan before you start building, or else you'll find yourself constantly changing things and essentially not have your site done within the time frame that you're looking at getting it done. So I'll walk you through a couple of steps here, key points that will help you with your website design. So the number one point with what makes a good website design is visual hierarchy. So it's the order in which the human eye perceives what it sees. So for example, with these 3 or 4 circles here, if you were told to organize them by importance, it's easy for you to just look at them and say the bigger, so the blue, the green, and then the yellow and the orange. That's just the way the human nature is. And so I'll talk about this. So this is the most common website layout that you'll find surfing online. So this is what they call the F layout. So just like with paper, reading and writing, our eyes travel from the left to the right. So you can see, and it travels left to right and down, just as if you were to read an article. So as you can see, the first thing people would see would be your navigational link. Then moving down, any headers that you have, and then you go into any content. And then if you see number 4 there, that's always a really, really nice place to put any advertisements that you may want to include onto your site. Next is what we call Hicks laws. Hicks law says that with every additional choice increases the time to require decision. So this happens to everybody. It happens to me. It actually happened to me at lunch. The most common place to run into this is at restaurants. When you see like a big menu, for example, and then scanning through that menu, it also has pictures related to it. It is hard for you to pick out a dish. So to help you this translate with your web design, filters is a nice way to break down each individual product that you have. So I mean, if you offer, for example, in the wine library, they offer different types of wines from different countries. The good way to break that down with your products is to have it filtered so that potential customers can go through and filter and find exactly what they want without getting frustrated. And that's the same with the Walmart site there on the right. So I mean, we all know Walmart sells a ton of different products. So they do a good job with their menu there. I mean, it does look a little overwhelming, but it is nice to have everything kind of organized there. And number 3 is white space and clean design. This is one thing that everyone is always guilty for. So I mean, the way you want to think about it is less and more. So with a lot of websites that you see nowadays, especially with a lot of informational sites, they do always want to jam pack a lot of information onto a page. I mean, it is nice to have all that information right in front of you, but at the same time, it does get overwhelming for potential clients or customers to try to read through all that. And like I said, like if they were to read through multiple articles, so if looking at this Squarespace, just plain and simple, a lot of white space to complement the images that they do have there, and then just a quick and easy content, quick sentence or two just to kind of explain what it is. And then if people are interested in reading into more, we can definitely get them to click into it and look into it a little more in depth. With that, I mean, you shouldn't think that white space is blank space. It is a really important element of design. So with white space, it does promote elegance, sophistication, and it improves legibility and drives focus. So next, that is a call to action is a really, really important thing with web design. So there are literally thousands of different types of call to actions. You can use a call to action whenever you want the user to do or something or respond in a certain way. A CTA can be used to spur users to take any step. For example, download a PDF, fill out a form, buy a product, or even just click through another page. You want to make sure that your call to actions are prominent. You want to place them strategically on your site so they receive maximum attention and visual focus. So for example, just looking at these two here, the Stroke of Beauty and the Mayfair's Art Deco, just jumping into the Mayfair Art Deco, you can see that the check availability, about the hotel, and what's on are actually call to actions, but to a lot of consumers or a lot of web surfers, just jumping on that, they won't know for sure that those are clickable links until they actually hover over it. So from a quick glance, they might just pass that over. So moving to the left there with Stroke of Beauty, if you want your call to actions to be seen and visible, you kind of want to make them look like buttons. So you can see the call us, text us, email us, which is essentially the same as what Mayfair has. You do know, like, it's just human nature that you do see that they're actual buttons, and you will essentially click through even though you don't want to do something like that. So I mean, having a contact us button, essentially they might not want to contact you, but most of the time people will click through on that button just to see what it does. It's almost a curiosity in all of us there. And some interesting facts with CTAs is that I found that 82% of websites do not even reference social media profiles. And that's a really, really big important thing. So I mean, you want to be known, you want to be seen on the internet, so you want to reference to any kind of social you have. So, and especially if you do have like emailing emailers, if you have CTAs on the emails themselves, 90% of the time people will click through those. And it does increase the interaction with the audience. And I mean, it doesn't have to look bad. I know with a lot of people, when they think CTAs, they think pop-ups and annoying things like that. But I mean, looking at the Glam Studio, that book now is essentially a CTA. But I mean, you can style it and still make it look nice. So another thing that is essentially overlooked is SEO. Search engine optimization is important because the majority of search engine users are most likely to click on one of the top 5 suggestions on the results page. SEO is not only about search engines, but it's also a good practice to improve the user experience and usability of the site. So I mean, users trust search engine, and having a presence on top positions for the keywords is users are searching increases the website's trust. So I mean, the better SEO practice you guys do have, the higher it will jump up on Google rankings. So to sum it up, search engine optimization, or SEO, is a great way to optimize your site so that search engines will understand it better and give you higher rankings, which means essentially the higher up you are on the Google page, the more traffic that will drive to your site. So one of the big things that is overlooked with websites is speed. I don't know about you guys, but when I try to open up a website and it takes more than a couple seconds to load, I essentially just close it. So I mean, with that, I remember reading a stat that if this website takes longer than 5 or 6 seconds to load, you will lose that audience, and that's a potential sale for you, right? So there are a couple of great tools that I like to share with you guys to help bring down those load times. So one of the big things, if you want to test out your page and see how it's doing, one of the big tools that you might want to look into is Google Page Insights. So, we don't have a link for that. I can definitely share that with you guys after, but with Google Page Speed Insights, essentially you type in your URL and Google will rank your site. And essentially the good thing about that is if there are any images or any code that's broken on the site, what they'll do is actually provide you with files that will fix those things for you, which is a really nice tool to have. And like the big things that do add to load times on site is images. So with images, you want to make sure the size of the image you're uploading on your site is the same size that'll be displayed on the site. This is one thing that's overlooked. I mean, when people download the images, they usually just upload them straight up without doing any optimization. which essentially could really slow down your site. There are a bunch of tools there that will help out. I mean, if you're building WordPress-based sites, there's a wonderful tool called Smush. And what that tool does is it'll go through all your images and it'll essentially strip all the data that isn't needed to be online, and it will essentially optimize those images for your website. So Google started using the site speed as a ranking signal in their algorithm way back in 2010. And it continues to serve as one of the many factors that determines where your website shows up in the search results. So essentially, the slower the site, the lower it'll appear in the search results, which is something you guys do not want. And another thing that's really important with your website is mobile optimization. Mobile optimization was overlooked for a while, but it is a little more important nowadays just because 33% of the users admit that their smartphones are the most important device for going online. Only 26% of small business owners have a mobile optimized website, which is surprisingly shocking because nowadays, I know I'm guilty of it. I use my phone literally for everything. One of the big things that you do want to have mobile optimization ready for is, for example, let's say you're shopping at a store and you wanted to quickly look up and see if you can find the price of that item cheaper, or if you wanted to look up reviews before purchasing that item in store. I mean, looking onto your phone, if your site's then not mobile optimized or how to navigate, people will eventually go to different sites for that. And you don't want to do that. So a mobile responsive web design is fundamental to a positive user experience, and Google is going to reward sites that meet users with such an experience. So that goes hand in hand with the speed. So the better mobile optimization, the better speed your site is, the higher you are going to rank up on the Google search results. So just to sum it all, to make a wonderful website, you do want attractive design. That is the #1 thing. I know that's one thing that's overlooked, but that's one thing I can't stress enough, that you guys want a nice design website because it will pull in a lot more people. And with that, you want a fast site speed. So you want your website to perform quick so that you don't drive people away. And you want mobile optimization, just because in today's day and age, everyone's using their phones for the internet. So you want to make sure that the experience is nice for them. And as cliche as it sounds, you don't get a second chance at a first impression. So you want to make sure with your website that you knock it out of the park the first time around.
So those are all the tips that we have for you today, but we are very open to answering a bunch of questions. If you have them, feel free to pop them into the channel. We'll hang around for a while, and we have lots of time left. So feel free to come at us with any questions, and hopefully we can get them for you.